Osho, Osho.
How did Osho come into your life and what happened next?
When I look back at my life, I see it as a story that was never chosen by me. I came back from Africa in 78, very, very, very unhappy. I have been doing meditation since I was 24, TM, and TM was also happening as a conspiracy. I was living and shared a kitchen with some other people, and we were studying at the university, and there happened to be a TM teacher. I just tell a little bit. And he said, you should learn to meditate. And I said, no, no. I was a Marxist, very, very ardent Marxist those days. Said, no, no, this metaphysics is not for me. But I liked him. I could feel him. So I said, okay, then initiate me. And that changed my life. When I sat down and repeated this mantra, it was a whole new world that started coming. And I went totally into it. Twice a day, 20 minutes. But then there came so many, many deep feelings up that TM movement have no way to deal with. A lot of anger and pain from my childhood came up, and the teachers just kept on saying, just put the mantra in,
Mhm.
repress it. Yeah, go on doing the mantra. But it could not. I could not do that. So I started looking at other Vivekananda, Ramakrishna, Ramana, and after a tour to Africa as part of my study, because I have a university degree in psychology and philosophy, I came back and had going together to Africa with a girlfriend, and she started being with another man. So I came back very, very devastated. I lived in a collective those days. And when I came back, the woman there said, I just heard about somebody who knows an Indian guy that where they do some kind of active meditations. Maybe it's something for you. Conspiracy. And I start doing dynamic in my flat with all this pain and all this. So it was 78 and 79 in the autumn I went to Pune and met Osho. And those days you came up to him to take sannyas and he touched your third eye and gave you a name and I just wanted to experience that. So then I was with Osho really committed for many years. I was not really so much around. I was very much with Osho. And I also became a Pune therapist because I worked close to Sakapriya. And Sakapriya was doing training in psychic massage and clairvoyance and things like that. So she recommended me that I could also start working. So I started also giving satsangs. No, groups in Pune. Um, I did a group called Inner Man, Inner Woman for many years. And I did psychic massage training with Sumito, a Swedish woman. So it went on like that. Then he went to America, as you know.
What's the meaning of your name?
What my name?
Oh,
Prem
what's
Nishkam. He gave me the name Prem Nishkam those days. Prem Nishkam.
Nishkam? What's the
Nishkam.
meaning? What's the meaning?
It's desireless love.
Oh,
Silence love.
beautiful.
So beautiful. So beautiful.
Uh,
How was the meeting with Osho? How was the first meeting with Osho?
but I had many meetings with him. In those days, we had something called darshan in the evening,
Darshan.
and you could sign up for it. And again, you came up to him, and he touched your third eye, and you fall back, and some people grabbed you, and I had that many times. And he also said things to me that, among other things, he said, "You got what you came for," he said to me. I had a long interview with him at the ranch, 2.5 an hour. We can look it up. It's very good because there were many journalists coming when the ranch start being uh, on the way to close down. As you know the story
Yes.
about the ranch.
Yes.
So then he gave interviews to many. So I also went and asked if I could have an interview, and I connected a Danish newspaper and blah blah blah. And I had an interview with him. Some of the highlights of my life also. Sitting in front of him for 2.5 an hour. And he also said to me in that moment, "You have seen me." It was also very strong. I didn't feel I had, but certainly I was totally committed. And as you know, the ranch happened. And again, the conspiracy, because I was a therapist those days here in Denmark. And we had a little center, Osho Center. And I went to a clairvoyant woman. Of course, I told her that my master lived in America and all this Indian master. And she said, "You must go to America." And I said, "But you don't know how difficult it is. I cannot just go to America. I have to marry and God knows what." And she said, "You will go to America." So I walked back, conspiracy again, to this little center, sat down in the kitchen, smoked a cigarette, and there were some women doing the dishwashing. I said out in the air, "Oh, I just wish there was an American woman who would marry me. Then I would pay for her travel to America." And one of them turned around, said, "I want to marry you."
Mm.
I nearly fainted. I said, "Okay, let's sleep on it then."
So easy.
But I think her father was American, so she had an American passport. So we went to the stuff to get married and went to the embassy, and I get the green card. I actually went to Texas because I haven't got the green card at the same time. I was waiting for it, so I couldn't get into the ranch before I had the green card. So I was in Texas, a terrible place. But I was working there and waiting until I could get to the ranch. And then I went to the ranch and I was there about a year and I never liked it. So, but I couldn't go away because I want to be with Osho. So I didn't go. But when he left, then I could leave. So then I left, went back to Denmark, and I went into a 3 weeks meditation retreat in the forest without any electricity, anything in the winter time, because I just needed to digest this whole time with the ranch. After that, I started Osho Risk in January '86, uh, together with a few other sannyasis. And you won't believe it. It's again like what is it I call it? It's not accidental. What is it? Conspiracy.
Conspiracy.
Remind me of this word. Because we bought this little property with some houses and a little piece of land, and we had to apply to get it confirmed into a course center. So we wrote to the commune, and they sent an architect out to look at it, and you won't believe it. When I looked out of the window, who was standing out there? It was, yes, a guy from my earlier young days where we smoked hashish some together. And he had become an architect of this community. I haven't seen him for all these years. And of course, we got the permission to build a course center. But again, see how things happen if they're supposed to happen. And when my awakening came true and I look back at my life, it's all a conspiracy. Oh, and there never was a me, that chose it. It was just happening. So obvious. Then we started Osho Risk and I was there. And then Osho died, 1990, January. And somehow I left because I had to go on. And Osho said to us that if your guru dies, you had to continue and find another master. So I went up and met Papaji. It was also a conspiracy. I walked out of the gate one day in Pune, and a woman I knew very briefly said, hello, you should really go to Lucknow. And I said, what's in Lucknow? That there is a master, a disciple of Ramana. And we had a cup of tea and I was going to start a tantra training the day after with Mumina in the ashram in Pune. And I said to her, sorry, I can't. So, but I never left Osho in my heart. But the community started fading out. And I kept Osho here for some years. And then I've been there a few times visiting. And I also try to give a program there, but it doesn't really go.
No way. Yeah.
No way.
It has to be all the old sannyasis that comes there. And in this way, yeah, I have awakened, so I'm not considered a sannyasin anymore.
Yeah.
This is also true. But it's all a conspiracy. That's quite important. You tell people that I see my life as leading a conspiracy to awakening. It was just organized, arranged this way.
Before, have you been to Pune too also?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
How was it for you there?
The best was Pune 1.
Pune 1.
Very happy for those days. Did you also go?
No, I went just to Pune 2.
Yeah. But Pune 1 was really the hippies, Guru, Osho was a hippie guru. He took all us old hippies that we wanted to live. We don't want to be told what to do and not to do. So we had this incredible group. I came out of an encounter group with a blue eye, and people came out with broken arms, and I came back twice to Denmark with gonorrhea because there was, of course, sex all the time going on. It was Pune 1. It was totally free. And even though Osho said, I don't want to have sex in my groups, there was nothing else. We were always naked. We were always naked in these groups. And I'm so grateful to be allowed to live this out like that. And I felt so much love for all of them, all these people, that we explored this Christian history with, because we all came from the Christian world that still was lingering, even though there has been a freedom of pornography, but still it was heavy with Christianity. And so we came from Germany, from Holland, and it was really funny to see we came in groups. Suddenly there came a lot of groups from Holland because the Dutch therapist has been in Pune and talked about it. So he brought a lot of people with him. So I also brought people to Pune, of course. And then the ranch happened, and then came Pune 3. And of course I was there a lot also. So, wow, what a days. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful that I was allowed to live all this out with love. Because we had such a trust in Osho so we could be there. I remember people was, in the groups, they were letting go and they shit on the floor or peed on the floor, and because there was such a depth of the work. But that was Puna 1. Then came Puna 2, and it was more uh, controlled. It was not so crazy. Of course, not the ranch either. So Puna 1, my God, what a time. And if you have interviewed some of the other old monks like Turiya, they also remember it.
Yes, we interviewed some old sannyasis that have been to Pune 1.
Yeah,
We
what are
heard
the
lots of stories.
what are their names?
Which ones?
Nishant?
No, we are still looking for people like Turiya, but we had Punya, Palmer, Jyoti, Indian
Jyoti,
ones,
Oh,
Indian people, Chaitanya Kirti.
Chaitanya.
yeah. The Indian people were not allowed into these groups in Pune 1
Oh, wow.
because they
Gaya.
were so obsessed with sex, so they were not allowed to join groups that has anything to do with sex.
Yes, there are
Okay.
too
So
much
Indians,
repression, too much repression, yeah?
yeah,
So Osho left his body and there was a gap, yeah? Before your awakening, could you describe this period to us? How was it? How was your search? How was the
yeah,
conspiracy?
yeah. I was a Pune therapist, as I told you, those days.
Mm-hmm.
So in Pune, when Osho left, I was still a therapist in Pune. And then it happened that I met that woman outside the gate. I walked out of the gate one day in 1991, and I met her, and we knew each other briefly. And she said, "Oh, you should go to Lucknow." I said, "What should I do there?" She said, "Oh, there is this Papaji, and he's a disciple from Ramana." And I said, "Can we have a cup of tea?" And we had a cup of tea. And not many days after, I was on the train to Lucknow. And those days, we stayed in a special hotel. There was not so many people around Papaji those days. So we all stayed in this hotel and went to satsang with Papaji. The first morning, I sat down in front of him. I think we were maybe 60 people in his dining room. He talked a little bit, and then I opened my eyes and I said to Papaji that whenever I go in here, Papaji, I don't want to come out again.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "Come up here." And he took me up to him and basically laughed at for me for half an hour. And it was very strong. He said, "You will get it." He didn't look at me again after he had had this meeting with him. Somehow I was not interesting anymore. And then I went, after I'd been there a few months, I went to Pune. No, yeah, and collected my things. And when I met Sakapriya, she said, when she saw me, "What has happened to you?" Because with Sakapriya, we were reading the people's energies. We could also read if there has been some kind of degree of awakening. We call it resonance. So she could see my resonance has gone, just being in the presence of Papaji. So I went, after that, I went to Goa and stayed 3 weeks at the beach and meditated after it was such a big experience. And then something happened interesting. I went back to Osho. I was, of course, still had this place, and I was going to lead a group called Who is In, or what did we call it those days? 3, 4 days awareness intensive. Awareness intensive. I was leading this. And in the end of this awareness intensive 4 days, we sat upstairs and had coffee, and my assistant put on a video of Osho. And I happened to turn around, and he was standing in the garden. And in this moment, I had a satori.
Mm.
because in that moment I saw him standing in the garden. It was like the whole periphery disappeared, and I fell into myself. I had a satori, and nobody could meet me. I tried to say to people that really I had an awakening, and nobody could meet me in it, really. So that was the first strong satori I had. So I went on and worked with Osho Risk, and I love these people I started it with so much. We had such a great time, so much fun and good time. It's some of the best time in my life when we started to build this place and build it up. And then I went to Lucknow one more time, and it must have been in '93, I think. Yeah, I wanted to see Papaji again, maybe whatever could happen. So I went again, and then what happens was that his son was going to get married in Delhi, so he would be gone for some time. And some of my friends said to me, "Why don't we go to Rishikesh and be with Ganga?" And I always dreamt about being with Mother Ganga. So we went to Rishikesh, to Lakshman Jula, and on the way down to the bridge, and we had no place to live, but we were looking. Shanti Mai was sitting outside her Satyadam ashram. She was actually sitting there, conspiracy.
Mm.
And she said to us, "Oh, you should meet my master, Hansraj Maharaji." And we start sitting with Hansraj Maharaji in the morning. I just sat and cried. I didn't like so much when he talked because it was nonsense and it was a Hindi. But his presence, I just cried. And then it came again strongly. One morning, looking at the mountains, at my little bedroom, just the Himalayas, I had just done the Gayatri mantra, did it every morning. And suddenly I could not tell if the mountains was outside me or inside me.
Mm.
It just appeared, and there was no me. And I had an awakening very strongly, and it never really left me. But it took me a long time to cultivate it because you have the awakening, but then comes the cultivation. Because a lot of the stuff that you're still carrying and pushed away deep in the psychology will start popping up, and it will sabotage your clarity unless you find a way to deal with it. So I've of course found a way. One of the way was to go out in the forest around Lakshman Jula with Rishikesh there, and just go and not thinking, just be in the forest and be one with the trees and be one with everything, and also sitting with the Mother Ganga. And it came back and came back, and also learned to work with non-duality because everything is apparent; it's not real. So I learned techniques that actually takes me down the layers of my feelings. I I teach people this now, that if you have a strong feeling that you're struggling with, feel it. Then there may come another feeling. That's my main teaching to people when we have these non-dual therapy happenings. I ask people, what is the strongest emotion you always struggle with? And people say it could be anger, it could be jealousy, it could be whatever. Then I ask them to close their eyes and feel it. And no thinking, no analysis. And after a while, the anger will change into sorrow, maybe. Then I ask them to really be the sorrow. After a while, the sorrow can become comparison or whatever other feeling that is layers by layers. And suddenly they start feeling, but I'm okay now. And then I tell them, feel your heart. Yeah. Oh, I haven't solved anything, but it's all gone. Then I ask them to feel this silence and let it out from the heart. It's there already. Let the silence out and become the silence. And you can wake up here. But most people wake up when I tell them, now be the silence, stay in the silence of the heart, and invite some of these strong negative feelings that you went through, invite them into this peace in your heart now and see what happens. And then they have a satori. It's a classical. It's very strong. And I've been working like that for many years now and had many people waking up. Also giving sad songs now. I wonder why this understanding of impermanence was not deeper in the spiritual traditions. I never really seen it. Anybody talking like that, like I talk now, that all experiences are impermanent. It's Maya. Yeah, India say it's Maya, but they don't explain it further. When it means Maya, it means that if you go into Maya without words, without thinking, because if you go into the thinking, you are not with the experience, then you will go down the layers. For instance, a woman I once had and said, oh, how come Nukunu I always go into this arrogance when I'm with people? And I said to her, what will you have to feel if you don't go into arrogance? Because arrogance is the ego's way to avoid something that is even more painful. And she closed her eyes and said, oh, I feel so vulnerable. Feel it. Go down. Keep on feeling vulnerable until it changes by itself. No language, no analysis. Oh, now it becomes, I'm free. I don't understand it. It's freedom, but feel the heart. And again, when you are in the heart and the silence, I invite her to invite this feeling of arrogance into the heart and disappears. You come into the non-dual, you wake up. So this is my basic way. And I never really learned it from anybody. It came to me in my cultivation of the clarity. But of course, these three masters I had, Osho taught me meditation and therapy, Papaji's Atmavichar, self-inquiry, and Maharaji, just surrender. He said, don't do anything, just surrender to your guru. It's a very high teaching, but of course it's possible. And I sat and just felt him, and I cried, and I knew something is happening. There is a recognition. Somehow I knew it. Even though in this moment I didn't really realize it. I realized it then when I sat in my little outside my little hotel room and looked at the mountains. Then it came. But it was not just done with that. I spent quite some time, again and again, deep things of violence, anger, jealousy, stuff came up. My present wife was very good to mirror stuff in me that I usually went into a drama with her. Now I just said to her, just go for a walk. Instead of going into a drama with her when she had accused me for something I hadn't done, I just put my boots on and went for a walk and start feeling this tremendous anger that I otherwise would have put on her. And after a while, the sorrow. And then I went back, and before I could knock the door, she opened it and said, oh, I didn't mean it. Because the outer reflect our inner. She could feel me from a long distance, that she could not make a drama with me. I was free. And then she was thrown back to herself and had to feel her drama herself. And that's how it is to be with an awakened teacher, that you are thrown into this stuff in yourself. That's the story.
Yeah.
What was your name?
My name is Abiro.
The woman.
Divya.
Divya. You can follow me, Divya. I can feel you are with me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Could we play a little bit with
I
Divya?
I'm feeling everything you are saying. I'm feeling myself here now.
What is in the way for your enlightenment?
Mm.
Divya, what is in the way?
What is?
What is in the way?
I I don't know.
Anger, sorrow, jealousy, comparison, or what? What is your favorite?
Maybe pain. Much
Pain.
pain. Pain.
Can I play with her a little bit?
Yes.
Close your eyes and feel the pain. Feel the pain. And Divya, first you connect with your heart. Yeah, because you have a very mature heart. And then you ask to meet my heart from your heart. Ah, yeah, that's right. Ah, then you come into non-duality. Feel it. Feel it. Just stay. Yeah, that is darshan. That is what it is to be with an awakened teacher. You just sit and get mirrored. So I am mirroring you, and you're very mature, so you can feel the oneness with my heart from your heart, right?
Yes.
Yeah, feel that. You can always do that because there's no physical reality, it's all consciousness. So we don't need to be close to each other physically. You can always do it. Feel the connection from your heart with my heart and how we become one. No duality, no separation. That's darshan in India. You just come and get mirrored. Now, when you stay here in your heart, Divya, invite that feeling that you're struggling with into this space in your heart. The feeling that is strong. Invite that into the heart. Ah, see what happens.
There's no pain.
It disappears.
It disappears.
Feel the disappearance. Feel that. That's who you are. Ah! Ah! I feel her. I know you are there. There's nothing to understand with the intellect. There's something to be. Ah! So first, connect with me. When you have done that and feel that there's no separation, there's no duality, then invite that difficult feeling into it and it disappears. Because it's all Maya. The only thing that is real here is awakening, is the divine. All that we see, feel, and sense is Maya. But you, I can feel you. You came along really. Connect with me when you have practiced a little bit now. Go on. Sit down. Connect with my heart and feel your heart. How separation disappears and we become one. Then feel that silence and invite whatever is troubling you into it. It will disappear. It will be your awakening. It's very strong because I feel people. I don't listen to them. I feel them. If you can come to Denmark, that would be the best. So we can spend a little time here. I have a little community here. Not so many people living here, but a few. And we have groups here and retreats. We just had a Christmas retreat here, silence, 10 days. Okay. Let's go on.
Wow. I was not thinking, or my
But you have been a sannyasi since 84.
Since 96.
Or 96. Oh, sorry.
Yes.
So of
And
course.
I felt in love with Osho,
Yeah.
like a
Of
conspiracy.
You have to meet me and finish the work.
Okay. Okay, I will. Wait for me. I will.
You already touched it now. Now we just have you totally, and you may start giving satsang, who knows? Ah, some of my people giving satsangs. And they'll do it their way. So will you. Yeah, but I felt you. I feel people. I can tell if you have resonance or not. You have a lot of resonance. It means a kind of maturity. I'm combining all this therapeutic work I learned from Osho and around Osho. I'm combining that with non-duality. I try to take people further. I have a lot of therapy going on in my groups also, but I don't stop there. I don't stop with people because they're just feeling good. Like that's ordinary therapy. Are you feeling better now? Yeah, I feel better now. No, they had to wake up. Then it's finished. So often we had to go into strong emotion from the childhood and God knows what. And expressing it, feeling it, and then see it's impermanent. That's the way. All these feelings are impermanent. But don't go into your thinking. Then you go away from it. And that's what an ordinary therapist goes. An ordinary therapist will say, where do you think you got that from? From your father and mother, and when, and blah, blah, blah. And you are not with the feeling, you are with all these thoughts. That's the difference between non-dual therapy and ordinary therapy. But I learned so many techniques in Pune 1 and Pune 2 because they all came from Kaleidoscope in London or from California and America. And all these famous teachers came and became sannyasin and started giving groups. And that was really Osho's way because he could see that people cannot go into meditation directly. They are so full of shit. So we had to do some therapy and then slowly, they can start becoming silent. But there's so much jealousy and anger and comparison and fear. And we had to go into that. We cannot just get people to sit silently alone. And that's his great gift to the world. He combined the great history of India with the Western therapeutic ways, Gestalt and encounter. Tirtha, one of the famous therapists those days, he came from Kaleidoscope in England. Have you met him?
No.
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 I think he lives in Australia, if he's not dead. He was bringing therapy also to Pune. And Michael Barnett, and he's dead now. I met all of them.
I have a curiosity about your name, Nukunu. Where come from?
Brilliance. It means brilliance.
Mhm.
And it came from Maharaji, my last master. Brilliance. He saw me, of course, in my awakening. And he said to me, I should send you into the forest now, but not seeing anybody for a few years, so it can settle, so you can cultivate it. And of course, I did it my own way, cultivated it. A big part of my cultivation is to give satsang. Every time you're sitting here and try to kind of transmit it, you also see yourself coming into it. It's a gift. So you will see Osho. Did you ever know that Osho also went to a teacher, Satya Baba? And did you know that story?
Maga Baba. No, no,
Satya,
Satya Baba.
Satya
Satya Baba.
Baba.
Satya Baba. Could you
Satya
tell
Baba.
us a little?
Satya Baba was a quite famous awakened teacher those days. I think he stayed in Varanasi. And Osho went up there and to have it confirmed. And Satya Baba said, yes, you got it. But your work will be very different from mine. And Satya Baba was traditional. And another disciple of Satya Baba was my master, Hansras Maharaji. Isn't it funny?
Oh.
Fantastic. I have, of course, read a lot about him and heard about him. Hansras Maharaji, my last master, heard about him, that he was coming to town. And people said to him, you should really go and see this master. He's so great. And my master said, oh, he went there and he just fell into Mahasamadhi the moment he saw Satya Baba. And he was in Mahasamadhi for 2 days. They had to shake him to get him out, more or less. Totally. It's India. See if you can come, Devi. Or I don't travel so much anymore because I've been traveling so much. But my body is getting older. I'm 76 now. And the body is very delicate. Go to Sweden. I have not totally decided not to go to India in February, March, but I think so. I think I don't go. Because it's my home. Rishikesh is my home. Have you ever been there?
No, never.
It's still the smell of the ancient India. You can still, so many ashrams, so much yoga, and it still has the taste. There's been so many awakened people there. They say even Christ was there. And
Jesus.
and Buddha, but some people have looked into Jesus' story. A Russian scientist and an English scientist I read, and tell another story. Because Jesus is buried in Kashmir. His body is buried up there, Belgaum, in a little town called Belgaum. He's laying beside Moses in Belgaum, in Kashmir. So he died there. He went, after his crucifixion, when he came down, he hadn't died on the cross. He didn't die. So he left for India again, over Iran and up. Some of these scientists tell the stories more about his journey to Iran and coming into India and whatever they can find out. And he was also in England, work for a short time. It's quite interesting to find tell a story about his life that is not the religious from the Bible, because the Bible wants its own story about him. But there is a more objective story that you can find. There is a book called Jesus Lived in India. Find it.
I've read it.
Yeah.
There are photos, there are pictures of his grave, yeah.
Really? I don't remember that. Oh, yeah.
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 I don't know if it's the same book, but anyway.
Yo, it must be. Jesus lived in India.
Yeah. Osho also spoke about this. Yeah.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. I don't really remember.
Yes,
If
he
also
did.
spoke about Jesus
He-
being in India. Yeah, maybe.
yeah. I think you went through most of our questions, but anyway, I want to ask you if you could speak about the importance of being with an alive Buddha for the continuity of our growth.
It's so important because this mirroring cannot happen unless you are with somebody who's awakened. Of course, you can wake up, but it's not easy because when we walk out of here, it's all unconscious people, and you only meet unconscious people. So you are not really mirrored on your deeper part. If you come and sit in front of Osho or somebody, poverty, or somebody that awakened, like I did with Miriam, Devia,
Divya.
what? Devia,
Divya.
yeah, like I did with Devia. Suddenly, oh, we are not separated. But you have to find somebody who has awakened to have that mirror. It's a mirror. We go to darshan, we go to satsang, not to get new belief systems. We go there to get mirrored. If you, for instance, read Ananda Maimar, she's also a great, great Indian woman that I think she died in 76 or something, or maybe even in 80s, left the body. She was amazing, awakened, an avatar. Just about her story of her life is amazing. Because it's not easy for an Indian woman to come out and be seen as awakened. It's such a, in this way, India is terrible. It's such a man chauvinist society. Man, 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 man. It's difficult for a woman. But read Ananda Maimar. For instance, this book of her, one of her disciples, Atmananda, that writes about her way of being with her. Death must die. But anyways, look at the picture of Ananda Maimar and read it. You can still get the transmission. We call it transmission, but there is nothing transmitted, really. There's something mirrored. It's not that the guru is transmitting anything to you, not at all. The guru is not what he or she is, but she's a mirror for the same in you, for exactly the same. That's difficult to find out there. You find only unconscious people. You cannot, very, very difficult to find somebody who's awakened. And we are living in a very, very low time with it's called the Kali Yoga, the time we're living in. In the Vedas, it's the fourth state that society goes into. The next state will be Sat Yoga, the time of truth. But the Kali Yoga is a very, very low. Look at the world with the wars and the pain.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Very bad. But we will come into a high society again where enlightenment is more normal. Like if you go to India 3,000-4,000 years ago with Advaita and Buddhism, and it was there this whole deep wisdom comes from. I have been especially into Advaita, non-dual. It's a very old non-dual teaching. And Ramana was very much into that. Ramana Maharshi, and of course Papaji also. I've been reading these old sutras. They have a famous saying in Advaita, Tvam Tat Tvamasi, you are that. And they don't say what that is because it cannot be said. You are it, but you cannot say what it is because it's beyond the mind.
Mm-hmm.
Cannot be said. Analogies and poetry and try to point at it, but it cannot really be talked about with the mind. The mind don't understand it. The mind is made of it. The mind is made of it. The mind is made of it. Because all there is that. Brahman. Brahman is all there is, and it's the absolute. But nobody can say what Brahman is. You can realize Brahman. It's a very high teaching that comes from a high culture way back. It comes actually from the um, matriarchate, this high teaching. It comes, in India, there was a matriarchate 4,000 years ago. Just like in the Celtic society in England, there was a matriarchate. Before the Roman and Christianity came to England, it was a matriarchate. Look at it, Divya. Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's very interesting. You had women warriors in this society, in the matriarchate. And in India, that was also not a patriarchate, it was a matriarchate also. And a woman could have many men. There was no property. You could not own your wife or your children. So women had many men. And then it became the patriarchate with the ownership of land, with the ownership of children. But that is 4,000 years ago, also in India. It was a matriarchate. And that's where you have these women from, Mother Durga and Lakshmi, and it's very, very good to know that the patriarchate will also fall again. Look at all the wars we are making and all the pain, pollution. It was not so with the matriarchate. This book or the movie, what was it called? King Arthur and the Round Table. There is
What?
some King Arthur and the Round Table and a book, and it has a hint because that's where the matriarchate in the Celtic society start becoming patriarchate.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Actually, with King Arthur, that's
Yes.
starting. It's very interesting to read. And then came this terrible Christianity and all this
Mm-hmm.
disaster.
Destruction.
Yeah, they killed more people than any war, Christianity.
Mhm.
Yes.
I have a university degree in psychology and philosophy, so I read it. I know all these church fathers. What was your name again? The
Divya.
man. Yeah, Divya, but the man?
Me, Abiru,
Abiro.
yes.
So, what a long talk.
That is great.
Great talk.
Great talk. We could go for hours. So, Nukunu, just to end up this interview, we would like to ask you if you could give an advice to seekers about the path.
Start looking inside. It's not about philosophy, but it start meeting oneself, opening up and go in. Our culture is so low, it has no idea about going in. It only knows about going out. Out, 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 out. Nobody goes in. That's why we have so much pain. Because when you start going in, you start feeling a oneness with everything, and all this violence disappears and all this separation. So it's about going in. But I could suggest that maybe we have a satsang in the Brazilian people. I could send you a link from the guy who's organizing my satsangs on the net. His name is Mutaya. I could send him to you, and you could see maybe we could have a satsang.
Okay, great.
On the net. On the net.
Yeah.
Maybe we need to have a translator. Yeah. I have been going a lot to Russia, so I know all about it.
Oh,
But these days we cannot go to Russia, if you know.
no, better no.
But I've given so many retreats in Siberia and in Moscow and Ukraine also. I love Ukraine very much. People from Ukraine are beautiful.
Mm.
It's a pity it is like that now.
Yes. Yes.
Namaste.
Namaste.
So nice to see you.
Nice,
Nice
thank
to
you.
meet you.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Much
Thank you.
love. Much love.